Okay. It being now after 7, let's call this meeting of the Stow Zoning Board of Appeals to order. Start with our administrative items. We have, let's start with the set of minutes from May 6th, 2024. We should have revised versions based on, I think, comments that Andy, I think he submitted.
Right.
So just let me know if anyone has edits for page 1. Anything on page 2? And on page 3. Page 4, any edits? Then we're just going through the May 6th minutes. The only, this is page 4, where it says Mark expressed frustration with this plan. I don't know if we need to sort of characterize it. I think it might be better to say Marco Hack expressed with the plan, and just delete the word frustration. I'm not saying it's wrong. But and any other edits or questions, comments, or pages, say 5 and 6?
Make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as edited.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Motion passes. So yes. Okay. We also have the minutes from June 17th from the executive session. Remind me, Michael, can we make the edits in the session? No.
No.
We can vote on those, we think they're okay.
Well, I guess, let's just take a moment to read them and someone indicate if they actually have any edits or not. If they don't, then that makes it easier.
I don't have any proposed changes.
All right, thank you, Ruth.
These are the ones from June 17th, we're reading, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They should be marked executive session on them. First, I thought they were just our regular meeting minutes. I mean, I know it does say confidential. But it would be good if it said executive session.
It just says down towards the bottom.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the bottom, okay.
I move to accept the minutes as June 17th.
Second.
Does it need to be a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? Hearing none, take the roll. Andrew Crosby.
Aye.
Andrew Moore.
Aye.
Ernest Dodd.
Aye.
Ruth Kennedy.
Hi,
Sue. And David Hernandez. Aye. So the minutes are accepted as drafted by. Okay. Any member updates, the zoning or planning nature? The only update I'll note is that Michael Nail did not renew his associate member appointment. So he's no longer on board. So just a reminder, if anyone knows anyone who's interested, I'll mention that to the members of the public. If anyone's interested in joining the zoning board as associate members, we have four. There we go. We have plenty of openings, so the more the merrier. So there's that. Any other member updates? Stow Green Advisory.
Yeah, we obviously we passed the climate action plan. And the next step is implementation. The issue right now is that they don't have a quorum. So that's the reason they're trying to reconfigure the committee.
I think I had heard that because they're reconfiguring, we've been asked to not sort of reappoint a new, I mean, I know you're not gonna be able to continue, but we've been asked to sort of hold off appointing a new member, so. I've got no problem being told to defer decisions. So for right now, we'll wait for further instructions from the town on that
I
point.
think they're trying to figure out who's the best committees to be part of
Gotcha.
implementation.
That makes sense. Okay. And in terms of reviewing correspondence, all the correspondence we've received has otherwise been, but correct me if I'm wrong, associated with hearings that we have tonight. So we can address those at that time.
Yes, there's 4 additional pieces of correspondence that are not listed on here because they were submitted after this was posted. So they've been received.
All right, that. Everything else at the moment. Next time on the agenda, the public hearing for 56 Harvard Road starts at 7:15, so we'll stand back for 4 minutes, kick things off.
Yes, I don't know if you closed your tablet before.
Oh, really? There. So it's done. Try airdropping it to my phone. And then
Klein to Stow dash. Do you know how large a file that is?
No,
Usually we'll send them out instead of sending them.
We can just turn your screen so that we.
Yeah.
I just sent it to you for email as well, Michael. So I don't,
Oh,
I just, and I sorry, we already had, in case that is.
just that. That's where I was at.
What's that?
Cool.
All right, it being 7:15. So it being 7:15, we can open the hearing for
56.
56, sorry. Sorry, it's one of those days. For 56 Harvard Road, thanks for the special permit application. I'll entertain a motion to waive a reading of the notice.
Move the waive the reading of the notice. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion, hearing that, actually, hold on, oh, we have 5 members, we do have 5.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry. We have a motion, we have a second, any discussion, hearing none, all in favor of the motion to waive the reading of the notice, say aye.
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 All right, so before we begin, just a brief reminder, we'll begin with a quick, short, concise statement from the presentation and statement from the applicant. I would encourage members of the board to ask any questions of the applicant at that time. Please note that any opinions, questions, comments expressed by individual members of the board do not represent a statement by the board itself. Any statement by the board is not given until the actual application is voted on and a decision is rendered. After that, to the extent that there aren't any other questions or comments from members of the board at that time, I'll ask town staff to see if they have any questions or comments, at which point I'll also open it up to members of the public, both in person and on Zoom. Please, to the extent that you have any questions or comments that you'd like to make, we would ask you to at least first state simply your name and your address so we can note it properly within the minutes. Also, all questions and comments should be directed to the board. The applicant is welcome to answer and respond to any questions or comments, but you have no obligation to do so. That being said, the board may certainly take a question or comment that you don't want to answer and then ask it ourselves, and so it cuts both ways. At that point, we'll see how the discussion is going, and then proceed accordingly. And then, as a reminder to the applicant, the board can take evidence, information in support of your application up until when the hearing is closed. When the hearing is closed, at that point, we can take no more information, whether it be from you or from members of the public. We will then discuss and then determine what decision, if any, should be reached. With that, I will turn it over to the applicant and talk a little bit about his application.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much. My name is Douglas Dombrowicz. The beautiful lady here in blue is my wife, Elena. She's 7 months pregnant, so she's gonna remain seated for this, but she's here with me. A little bit about us. We moved here with our son here in November. I am a professional ballroom dancer, and we have owned Fox Ballroom Dance Studio. We're very excited to be here and part of the community. And I wanted to start off by kind of going over the extensive memo that you guys had. We had a lot of great questions and concerns. I kind of wrote it all up in order of how it was mentioned in the memo to address everything. But of course, if anything needs clarification or if I'm going too fast, I'm more than happy to stop. But I did try to address everything in the memo. As you know, we are a ballroom dance studio. We mainly teach private lessons and semi-private dance lessons, mainly to adults. We work with kids as well, but we mainly work with adults. And the main purpose today that we are seeking a special permit is primarily to host group classes and social dance parties, while also striving to be a center for the arts within our new community. We're really excited about. Our main social event that we have done in the past at our old location is we had social dance parties every Friday night, which is a lot of fun. It's mainly just our existing students. I'm happy to open things up to the community eventually, but usually it's just our students will come, we'll dance, and it's a lot of fun. We've had like different themes like Roaring 20s or Masquerade or Harry Potter, so it can be a lot of fun. And the plan is to start off with once or twice a month to just kind of see how the attendance is and see what the popularity is, and then we'll kind of adjust as we go. Some additional ideas we have to kind of, when we're thinking about the community, a few weeks ago, we went to this amazing craft fair in Waltham, support of one of our students' children. And basically what it is it was a giant arts and crafts fair where kids had the opportunity to talk about and show off, display, and even sell their different arts and crafts. And we thought that was such a great thing for kids to be able to do and to have that opportunity. So we thought that down the road, that's something that we would be interested in, as well as maybe like a formal Stow town like ball or something. So we have a lot of fun ideas. But now I'd like to address kind of for each of the departments what we kind of had to go through. First, in response to the conservation, we don't have any planned expansion at this time, which was their only question. And as far as the building inspector, we have been in frequent contact with the Commissioner Frank, who's been so helpful through this entire process. I've been meeting with him, I feel like weekly since this winter, and he's been helping us out and making sure that everything we do, we're working towards getting all the proper permitting and we're doing everything right. He's even come out to the property to kind of like look at things and help. And he's even offered to come back, hopefully within the next couple weeks, to again just help move it along and make sure that everything's up to code. We've been kind of filling him in on every step of the way. And we have the last thing, we are working directly with the town's plumbing inspector. He's going to come out next week and help us kind of figure out a solid plan for adding bathrooms. We already have water, which I'll get to, but just helping those, we have been in contact with every single department and just making sure that we're following everything. In the memo, you guys mentioned that we were not asking for any kind of bylaw relief. I'm not exactly sure what that is, so if we're required it at the time. But as of now, I don't think we are. But again, like after talking to you guys, if there's anything that comes up, I'd be glad to talk about that. The next thing was capacity limits. After speaking today with the commissioner, basically as things stand now, if everybody were to come today, we could have 49 people in there. And then once we do a couple minor adjustments, like we need to change like a door and things like that, it'll be up to potentially, I think he said 175, but which seems a lot personally for the space. But of course I'll default as to him as like we're going there and like we'll post all of that. And since it does have over 25 people as within the space, I did want to bring up that we do already have running water in there. So the running water is already established in there. We're going to add like a water fountain in there, but the water is already there. As far as parking goes, I don't want to limit myself, but I think that we can fit way more cars in the space than we could realistically fit people in the barn. The main space we have is a horse ring, which is very large, and I've kind of outlined it in the plan you guys have. And we have a lot of places that other people could park. I don't anticipate needing anywhere close to that anytime soon, but there is plenty of space there where I don't anticipate having any kind of events where people would need to park on the street or anything. If it got so big, I would talk to you guys, but I'm not anticipating there being any traffic problems with that. As far as the signs go, we don't have any signs yet, but we will of course follow section 6.3. We have it, and we'll make sure those follow any regulations that we need. And then the next thing I want to address is some potential concerns that people may have, and that you guys kind of outlined, as far as both light and sound. So I did take extensive photos and extensive videos, but I felt like it wasn't quite enough and it didn't read fully. So what I did is, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the visual here that we created. So here is our property, all right? And for some context here, this is the barn, and the quickest way to go would be straight here to the road, which is about 200 feet. And then to the corner of our property this way is about 300 feet. And although I wasn't able to 100% measure to like all of our neighbors' houses, of course, our closest potential neighbor is roughly just over 400 feet about. But just to give you guys a general idea and the visual here. So I first wanted to start with the lights. So right here and in here, we have some solar power lights. And these are very small solar powered lights that are meant to illuminate a path. So basically these lights are 200 lumen. Okay, so a 200 lumen has a radius of 6 to 12 feet. So if you're looking at the light, it goes about 6 to 12 feet, depending on how high the setting is in different lighting positions. But I wanted to take this a step further for you guys and show the lux. So the lux is basically how much light is in a specific area. So how bright is the specific area? And to have some comparisons here. So a full moon is 0.25. Street lights are 10 to 20 lux, and office lights can be 500 to 1,000 lux. So like here, for example, these lights. Our lights here are, for example, at 400 feet, we have 1.25 e to the -7, which basically means, to kind of put those into different terms, that this means at 400 feet, this light is 10,000 times less bright than a single star in the sky, to give you a little bit of comparison. So 10,000 times less bright than one star in the sky. And then for sound, mostly the sound is going to be coming from inside, of course. But for the purpose of this, I'm sorry, I'm in the way of anybody, anyone needs to see. For the purpose of this demonstration, I wanted to take our loudest speaker we have and put it outside at 100% volume. All right, at 100% volume, it is 85 decibels. All right, and at 200 feet, so if you're walking by, there's nobody that lives here. This is just our house, and like to the road. So like if you're driving by, it's 33 decibels. And then at 400 feet, which would be the nearest person, it's at 26.9 decibels. And that's if we were to max out the speaker outside, which we obviously wouldn't necessarily do. But these decimals, as a comparison, are in between whispering from 5 feet away and whispering from 5. So to the next person's house or property, our max speaker directly outside would be whispering from me. And hopefully that has most of the concerns. And I'm glad to answer any questions with that. And then moving on to some of the more general questions you guys have.
I think your co-applicant has a comment.
Yeah, I do. These numbers are mathematically calculated, in a vacuum, so not with all the trees and other noise and everything else in the way.
Thank you.
Correct, yes, she's an engineer as well. I should mention that. So these are numbers with nothing impeding it. So realistically, we have an entire forest, you have birds, you have ambient sounds, it's even less. But yes,
So I have a question. What's to the left?
to the left
That's
here,
our house.
your house.
Yeah, 25 feet from that border.
Oh, well, great. Then unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to meet you guys.
Mhm.
But yes, I have not had a chance to.
So those sound and light will radiate in that direction as well, correct?
Hypothetically, yeah, it would go in that direction as well.
With the lights, how many lights are you planning to put out when you go to full?
So the lights are just a normal amount to like maybe roughly every like 10 feet. It's just enough that they're already out there. It's just enough where it can light up the path so that you can
I think
safely
the
walk.
question is how many, not what's the distance between them?
How many? I would say on the entire property, which is 4.5 acres, we have about 20 lights.
And at what angle are they
Well, actually,
positioned?
hold on, let's do this in order because let's keep things to the board right now. You're welcome to answer questions after, just want to keep things going.
Yes,
Keep
I
going.
can directly answer that they are roughly 45 degrees down. So rough.
Keep going. Sorry.
Okay, great, no worries. So our hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 1 to 10, as well as by appointment on weekends. Special events may have different times, but those are our normal times. We usually teach between 5 and 8 lessons per day, generally spread across 2 teachers. Group classes based off of our previous location, we're anticipating between 5 and 10 per group class. And we usually have like 2 to 3 group classes a week. Social dance parties, again, based off of our old space, we could reasonably expect between 15 and 25 people. Our main events are mainly parties for existing students that I talked about, though we hope to do more community events in the future. We don't typically sell any food or drinks or anything at our parties. In the past, we have done events where we got a single day liquor license, but I'm not sure that's our angle, but we have done that. I am expecting most, if not all of our events to be indoors. But we'll potentially use the outdoor like a reasonable amount. And of course, if I've gotten the chance to meet most of my neighbors, which has been wonderful. I'm sorry I've not gotten to meet you guys, of course, but one of the things as a general statement to the board or to the community members, especially my neighbors, if there ever was a problem of any kind, we of course would want our neighbors to feel like you can come directly to us, and we would sort it out accordingly.
If I saw correctly, there was some reference that you're conducting lessons right now using, I think, the bonus room, like in your house?
Yes.
Okay. Would that continue, or would you sort of end that if you got what you wanted?
If I get what I wanted, we wouldn't need it.
Okay.
So it would just be in the barn. It's kind of set up as a temporary space. I'd like to keep the floor likely because it's just a nice wood floor.
Yeah.
But I don't anticipate having to use it.
And the work in the barn, I know you talked about putting on a solid slab
Mhm.
on the floor. Would you keep it as technically a 2-story barn, or would you sort of clear out the sort of mini second floor that's in the barn?
We're definitely going to have the first floor. We are on the fence a bit about the second floor, so we're planning on just the 1 floor. With, of course, when we go through like the inspections and like all of that, we're gonna talk about that second floor. But I'd like to eventually add that second floor as a balcony, not as a full second floor.
Oh, sort
But-
of keep the middle part open the way it's sort of. set
Yeah,
right now.
because it's not like a full 2
Right.
floors, it's just a balcony.
And what's the water that's being, you said there's water to the barn right now. Is it just like a spigot for a hose?
There's a water supply that's like a pump,
Oh,
and then also you can put on the hose, but we intend to put like a water fountain there. So,
okay. And you have electricity running to the barn right now?
we do.
Okay.
We are going to, I have an electrician that came last week in regards to upgrading it. So while we're building everything out, that way we don't have to do the walls a second time or anything.
In other words, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to monopolize. But the physical exterior in terms of the barn and the house, there's nothing that's being expanded?
No.
Okay. Yeah, go play, sorry.
No, that's okay. Good questions. You mentioned the special events, and I think you said there might be like 49 people, is that right?
That's what we can have 49 people in as of today, where it's unfinished. Once it's finished, we can have a lot more, but
Well, now, when you say a lot more, what are you basing that on? Did the building inspector give you a number in terms of the building capacity?
yes, he went through and there were a few different versions. He said, depending on if we end up classifying it as like an assembly space versus a dance hall, he said there's a couple variations we can go with that have slightly different numbers.
Well, so what would be the maximum number that you would anticipate?
The max I would anticipate wanting, like realistically in the space, I feel would be like 50 people, maybe 75. I feel like that'd be crowded, which should be significantly under what the actual building capacity will be.
And how many doors, entrance doors are there to the barn?
There are currently 2, and we are technically, there's 4, technically, there's 4 points of egress at the moment. However, we're going to be converting 2 of them either into, they're like garage doors. We're gonna either make it a wall or put windows there. And then we may, we have a front and a back, and on the side, we may have a double door open as a point.
So you keep the front front and back doors then?
We're definitely gonna keep the front and back. We may add an additional side.
And what about in terms of like any fire apparatus, like extinguishers?
Yes, we have an extinguisher already in there. Then, of course, we'll run through whatever is necessary when we get there.
And you're talking about special events, how many special events are you anticipating?
I'm not sure. I would, in the past, I can go just based off of in the past, what we've done is we've had maybe like 4 events a year. Is what we did. We've had a few events.
Your septic system, how many people is it approved for?
So the septic system was just replaced in November, and I had talked to the plumbing inspector, in which case he's gonna like double check this, but he said we should be able to add, he's gonna have to double check, but based off of my current system, he said he thinks we'll be able to add 2 bathrooms, but I won't know for sure until.
How many gallons a day are you allowed? You know, 25 people, it's a whole new set of rules come up as far as wells. And also your septic system's only approved for basically 4 bedrooms, for a 500-gallon tank, or 1,500-gallon tank.
Yes, I had showed, I don't know what offhand.
With that many people there, you got a problem, it seems like.
With that, I don't know it offhand. That's a great question. And of course, I did talk about the plans and what was, I had like the septic plan of what was just put in. And the building inspector didn't seem to, the plumbing inspector didn't see there being an issue with adding them. And I explained the whole like purpose and the people and stuff. And he doesn't anticipate there being an issue, but
You
of
need to go to
course.
the Board of Health and find out what the.
Yes, I'll talk to them as well.
And also the well, if you're having 25 people there, you have to have a public water supply. And that takes time and approval of the DEP. And have you considered that?
Yes. So I've been kind of in contact with everybody trying to get what I get done.
Look at the application, you know, basically, you've given us a sketch. Part of what, obviously, what we need to do is look at the parking. And we need to know, in order to decide what's the appropriate amount of parking that should be allowed, we really need to know distances to neighbors' lot lines. And, you know, see it really designed out so that we know that it's been, you know, the parking spaces are the correct size and distances and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll need something more than just a sketch for that.
Okay, we do have, you can see like on our lot plans, from the horse ring to the next property, I believe is 150 feet to 200 feet. And the next closest neighbor that is across the street, I don't know how far it is. The gentleman is here, so we could also talk to him. He is.
Right, but really what the thing is, you have like 4 or 5 different parking areas throughout your property. And those have an impact to your neighbors. And there's certain regulations you need to meet in order for us, I think, in order for us to really understand where they're going to be located and how far away they are from your neighbors and what the impact could be. So we actually need a site plan, I believe.
Just out of curiosity, speaking of parking, are you planning on paving any of the areas or just
No.
gonna just drive as is on?
No, these
on
are
property?
just like more overflow. All the overflow is more than, it's at least 200 feet from, most of it's all 200 feet from the road at least, and 400 feet from any neighbors, with the horse ring, the exception of the horse ring is maybe 10-15 feet from the road.
Have you contemplated any mitigation measures for headlights coming into the parking so that?
So specifically also with the vegetation, you can't see any of the headlights when parking in the horse ring.
Even in the wintertime?
Yes.
Also, most people are out at or right after 9, so we're not expecting anyone, driving in at 3 AM or anything.
But that
Well,
would be,
another
so in the wintertime, when there are no leaves and it's dark at 4, it might be something worth considering when you're contemplating impacts to just clarify what mitigation measures might be in place to mitigate impact on your neighbors from cars entering and leaving in the night when there are no leaves on the trees.
Of course, so when coming from a horse ring, there's 2 of the 4 sides are just pointed at my property. They're not towards any specific neighbors. The 3rd side is towards the road where there's nobody directly across the street. The person closest across the street is a gentleman that's here. So you can ask him about it. And the final side, you have at least 300 feet, I'm pretty sure, to the next person's house in that one.
Also, no houses in a straight line from.
And no houses that are in a straight line. So even though they can be on like a front lawn, it's still another 150, 200 feet to the house.
I have a question about the music.
Yes,
Is that coming from a boombox? Is that this
it's a Bose SoundLink 2. So it's like a,
Bose radio?
yeah, it's like a little speaker that you can, pretty powerful little guys for what they are, but.
Well, we used to have a Bose across the street on Old Bolton Road, so.
Yeah.
We can do it Bose.
That's a big boom box.
Yeah, not a big,
Yeah, that was a bigger boombox.
If you guys are having parties, would you be having them in the barn with the doors open in the summertime? Or are you thinking, how are you gonna accommodate air conditioning on a day like today, for example?
Great question, thank you. So we do anticipate keeping the doors closed. We will eventually have air conditioning in there and like AC. That'll be before we can really get in there, we'll already have that.
Have you talked to the fire chief? Do you have to, are you, or building inspector too, are you required to sprinkle the barn? You got a lot of people in there. And fires, put sprinkles in the
Put
fire.
sprinklers in. He said depends on from what I understood talking with Frank, the building inspector, he said it may partially depend on which route we go, and he's gonna kind of help me pick which one makes sense, but I don't think we need the sprinkler system unless we go for a certain classification.
Well, that would depend on the capacity of people.
Exactly, that all kind of like depends there. Of course, we'll do whatever is required by the town, of course.
You also may want to speak to the fire chief about the balconies, because sometimes fire chief, different fire chiefs look, they don't like people in balconies. I know a lot of churches can't use their balconies because the fire department says it's not safe. So,
All right, I'll definitely talk to them.
I want to be conscious of the time because we've got a busy agenda tonight. Are we in agreement, by the way, about the necessity of a site plan? Because, I mean, I think under keep me honest, under 9335, establishment of an area for vehicle parking requires site plan approval. So I think that's one thing that we're gonna need. I want to just ask town staff if I know you put together a lengthy list, and thank you for addressing those. Before opening it up to the public briefly, do you have any other additional questions or comments at this point?
Nothing major.
Okay. All right, so at this point, I'm going to open it up to members of the public. I will, though, just for the record, also just acknowledge the correspondence that we received. One is there is a note, Ernie, from the Board of Health that was included that did address sort of the issue with Title V.
Yeah.
That's in the file. But otherwise, we received correspondence from Klein on June 3rd, Becker and Auckland on July 1st, Troxel on July 3rd, Anderson on July 8th, and Crawford on July 8th. So please note that we have reviewed those, and obviously we'll take those into consideration. With that being said, I'll open it up for members of the public in the room first. So please raise your hand, and like I said, state your name and your address before. Yes, ma'am.
Maureen Crawford, 34 Harvard Road. And to address your question, Ernie, I have talked to the BLH. He cannot, if he's going to put bathrooms into the barn, he cannot utilize the new septic system that Mrs. McWilliams installed because it only qualifies for the 3-bedroom house. If he's going to put a bathroom into the barn, he must put in a new separate system. Also, when he mentions lighting not being able to be seen by the neighbors, here is a photo of one of those lights. Directly shining at nighttime into my front bedroom. So it may be at what he qualifies as a 45-degree angle. It is not. And per what Frank said from the building department, when he went out there and looked at the lighting in the rink, they were not compliant to the bylaws for the lighting.
We do need to make a site visit.
We'll talk. We'll grab that.
Also, renovations have been done on the barn, which is why in my documentation, I included the pre-sale condition of the inside guts of the barn.
I was curious actually how to get those pictures. So, so thank you so much. Appreciate it. Other questions, comments from individuals in the room? Sir.
I'm Peter Klein, live at 64 Harvard next door. And we are the closest neighbor. The barn is about 150 feet from our living room. And I think we can hear a lot better than his estimates projected there. When people pull into the driveway and have conversations, just speaking voice, we can hear it quite clearly. So I think the sound travels a little better than they estimated. I think you're right on the site plan. They've laid out some of the parking that's directly on our property line, which is right next to their driveway. And so I think that's a no-go. I would also point out that of the parking, it's all expansion. So there was, like, for instance, this gravel riding ring was not a parking area before.
Right.
So that is new parking that they're proposing to change the use of that land. And I believe it is in wetlands. And so they would be taking a wetlands area and using it for parking. And I don't know the conservation requirements, but that's something that seems like it should be looked into.
Thank you. Other, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be skipping over the applicant. To the extent that you wish to respond to anything so far, you're more than welcome to. If you want to just keep going, we're happy to keep going.
Sure,
Okay.
thank you. I'd say in regards to any photos, it's hard for me to defend without actually seeing any of these photos. So that's, I'll say that. And in regards to these neighbors, they're 100% correct. I've had some issues elsewhere where I put my focus, and it's an honest oversight, not getting a chance to speak with them as our closest neighbors. They're absolutely correct. But within that, I would just like to say that I first and foremost want to be a good neighbor, and I want to be respectful. So if there's ever any concerns or anything, whether it's a part of anything or not, I would like to be able to develop the relationship where they can come to me and I could address any concerns between us. I would love to open that conversation up because, again, I want this to be a positive thing for the entire town, and that especially includes our neighbors.
So I feel like you have a bunch of your neighbors here tonight,
So-
and we're kind of universally not interested in this business in our neighborhood.
Sir,
You're
sorry,
the
you need to comment.
I'm sorry.
I try to, there,
I'm Eric Anderson,
thank you,
17 Carrington Way.
thank you,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I just feel like it's a very, very rural road. It's a narrow road. It's a dangerous road. Adding 30, 40 cars, parking 9, 10 PM, events, parties, liquor licenses, like, this isn't why I moved to Stow. It's disappointing, honestly. And frankly, there's a great space down at the Shaw's parking, shopping center. Go run a dance studio there. Tons of parking, tons of bathrooms, tons of, it's not gonna have the same issues.
Sir, sorry, you had your hand up before.
Yes, Charles Bergeron, I live at 35 Harvard Road. I'm actually one of the neighbors that is across the street, and I actually think that this is a great idea. It has my full support and the support of my family. Across the street, we don't notice any of the noise pollution or light pollution. I have seen their areas, I've even walked through their areas. I've done a dance class or two with them just to experiment. And it looks pretty good to me. I think the area that they have for the parking lot that they're suggesting that was the horse ring. I do not know the zoning laws. I do not know any of that stuff, but if it was able to be used, it's fully gravel. If it was able to be used by the horses, I don't see an issue with some cars being parked there.
Thank you. Any other comments? I just want to give everyone a chance first time. Any other comments or questions from folks in the room before I open up to Zoom? And I'm going to move this along a little bit more quickly. This is not going to get resolved tonight, just so everyone knows. Anyone on Zoom, if you can virtually raise your hand, and Michael will virtually call on you. Silence is gold. Okay. Any at least final comments, questions for tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Maureen Crawford, 34 Harvard Road. One of the concerns I believe most of us who are against this or not in favor of it is because it does not leave the residents as the primary use. It makes the dance studio the primary use of the residential property, which is against the bylaws. The bylaws state that the primary use is to be the residence. It also states that it is a incidental usage or business to the residents, which means it is the owner, not 3 instructors. Regarding the riding ring being used as a parking lot, horses don't leak oil or with other fluids. But they leave.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry. I didn't mean to.
But Mrs. McWilliams was extremely diligent about removing that from the area. This abuts wetlands, which drains into the drainage, which runs into the drainage easement that then flows into Elizabeth Brook. So any leakage or contamination can eventually end up in Elizabeth Brook.
Understood. The only thing I'll note is that the zoning board only has so much authority. And so some of the issues that have been raised are certainly more within the scope of the Conservation Commission, the Board of Health, who I know have been, obviously, I think you guys have been in communication with that, so have town staff, and so there's certainly.
But how can he be doing renovations without a building permit?
That's not really the subject of tonight, so I can't really
Okay.
comment on that. All right, any other, at least questions or comments from members of the board as of now? I do think a site visit would be worthwhile, and we also do need a site plan, in particular because of the parking, the proposed parking on the site.
And probably clarification around numbers and whether a public wastewater permit that, I'm sorry, Ernie, I'm using the wrong term. But probably
Yeah.
whether, clarification on septic and wastewater and other
Right.
issues.
Yeah, no, understood. I mean, we're in the position here, and folks can correct me if I'm wrong, where, certainly if you were to ever issue a special permit, the decision obviously is subject to also compliance with Board of Health, and all the other applicable commissions and boards and whatnot. And so, any permit that we have and for the applicant's information, folks have different strategies and processes. Some people prefer to come to us first, other people prefer to go to the Board of Health first and check off whatever boxes they need to check off. But getting approval from one doesn't necessarily mean approval from the others. So with that, any other final questions or comments for tonight?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
So we would like to do a site plan, sorry, I say site, well, we do want a site plan, but we also want to do a site visit. Can you work with the applicant on that for public meeting rules and obligations? It is best for us not to all show up at the same time. And so typically town staff will work with you in terms of, some windows, and that way we will usually appear one or two at a time. And so that's just an opportunity for us to see it, take whatever notes we need to, and then quietly leave. But with that, unless there's anything else, I will entertain a motion to continue.
I move that we continue the public hearing to August the 5th. He sets the rules.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah.
At 7:15.
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of continuing the hearing until August the 5th at 7:15? I see where it's saying. There you go. Thank you, Ruth. All right, motion passes. We will see everyone again on August the 5th, and in the interim, we'll do the site plan and plan such. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right, with that, we're a tad behind, but we'll keep on trying. Folks, clear the room first. Okay, so with that, I'll reopen the hearing for the special application permit of 98 Pine Point Road. One thing to note, Michael Nail, Associate Member Michael Nail, is no longer on the board, and he was appointed for the purposes of this hearing. Because of the nature of the rules, we can't appoint anyone new at this point. The reason I'm telling you this is because in order to have a special permit approved, you need the votes of 4 individuals on the board. Now, typically that means that you could have a 4-to-1 decision if you have 5 members. Unfortunately, we're only going to be able to have 4. The 4, so
Were you here, Paul? I was here, but I wasn't appointed as a voter.
If he's here at all the meetings, he can
He
be.
was not.
he was not. That's the problem.
I wasn't here for that meeting on 90. This is 98.1.
There's been,
Yeah, there's been a lot.
there's
a lot of-
been several meetings
Did I miss
and
one?
you were not at
Since
one
last,
and
a
you
year
missed
ago. June
part
or
of another
something.
meeting.
Really?
Yeah, so don't worry about it. You were not, you weren't there at the time. It's okay.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it.
So I'm just alerting you that as a result, we'll need unanimous vote of 4-0 as opposed to.
David,
can't
I'm
do
not
one.
on this one. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So, but with that, so I just wanted to make you aware of that. So with that,
What does that mean? That everybody has to agree
correct.
Or
or wait?
Well, no, or it's denied. I mean, it's like, so as opposed to a normal situation where you'd have 4-to-1, you could potentially have 4-to-1, though, to be perfectly honest with you, I can't remember the last time that anything was 4-1. Usually everything's by consensus.
Maybe I haven't been on those decisions.
No, trust me, I have. So, but with that, I will turn it over to the applicant to provide us a brief presentation of what you are looking to do.
Are these the plans, Michael?
Yes, I have one there and then I have one.
Have you had a chance to see what they are? Chance to see it. So my name is Gary Nixon. This is my wife Christine. And what we wanted to, this is just kind of a little layout of what we want to do. Just so you know. I don't think I have enough for everybody.
I had 5. But it's going, we'll get 5 years, so that's okay.
It's
First, there's not a lot. I'll just tell you what we plan on doing. It gives you, there's a picture of the deck that I want to enclose. And there's a feature, on there, there's a place that says, deck, shed. But you want to add a 6x8 shed to the back of the driveway, just because I have so much stuff in my driveway right now, I need a place to store things. Okay? We've been in town since 1985. We own 98 Pine Point Road. We had 4 kids grew up in this house. And it's a very small house with a very small lot. But we still wanted to do some stuff to it.
We just want to enclose the deck that's there already, that's been there for 20 years, at least.
Over 20 years. And Mr. Dodd came out and looked at the property. But I don't think we all talked about it. You all sound like you were gonna come and work it and nobody showed up for the party, you know, so.
And we can't talk about except in meetings like this.
Okay.
Oh,
We can talk about other things, but not about ZBA stuff.
No, those ZBA says? Okay. So I guess look at it and if you have any questions, we can answer any questions you have. We have, I noticed that Bill, what's his last name?
Byron,
Yes,
Mr. Byron.
he wrote a little note on July 3rd. His very good friend lives next door, Dottie's father. And so they did, he's been around the house a lot. He's next door, he's not the next door neighbor, he lives there half most of the time. And
but he's not.
he's not a neighbor, but he wrote a note to voice his concerns. And I understand he's trying to protect us, and that's fine. He talked about us going on to the butter's property. There's a fence between it, it's just a wire fence, but there's a fence between the 2 properties. We don't walk onto their property.
At all, ever.
She used to call the police when the kids were waiting for the bus out front. So we don't go to her property. And the neighbors across the street, Dan and Ed over here, have complaints about how small our house is, not how small our house is, how small our lot is, and how we shouldn't be allowed to do anything else with it. And, you know.
Just out of curiosity, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off in case we had.
That's right.
Okay.
Sure.
One of the pieces of correspondence that we have is actually from over a year ago. From the Conservation Commission that indicates that, you know, you're gonna need to go in front of them as some of the proposed work is within the buffer.
They already.
Is that something that you've done before, you're gonna be doing that afterwards?
I've been to the Conservation Commission, we filled out the paperwork for, well, there's a few things we did. We need to close out an old septic, and we've done that. And the other things they wanted to do, I'm not so sure what I have to do, what I don't have to do.
But none of it is touching the ground.
None of it's on the.
We're not touching the ground.
Our deck is cantilevered. There's no groundwork, there's nothing in the ground from where we are. The deck, the end of the deck from to the water is 34 feet.
30.
Yeah.
So it's basically putting walls, closing this in.
Yeah.
3 walls.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can picture it, how simple it is.
In other words, you don't want to expand it, you just want to
Yeah.
wall it
Don't want to expand.
Close it up.
with solid walls or springs? Or?
No, the solid walls.
Right now, it's gonna be solid walls, but probably a couple of trans and windows top high, just to let light in.
Okay.
And the
roof?
And the roof, the
And
roof's already
It's
there.
already there too.
Oh, okay.
So
If
this-
you saw the picture, the roof is there.
And so do you open up one of those windows as a doorway into the home? Is that what's the plan?
No,
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 They're just
the
windows.
wall that's there, taking it down,
Oh,
pushing
you're
the
gonna
whole
take the whole
wall out,
wall down. Okay, that wasn't clear. Okay, I got it now.
taking the wall down, push the wall out 3 feet.
It's already cantilever deck there. There's no need for a foundation or anything.
Could it hold that?
That's
Yeah.
between him and the building
It's
inspector.
everything's doubled up. It goes back 10 feet into the house. So yes,
And the shed is something totally different. It's a
the shed is
separate-
just gonna be 6 feet wide by 8 feet long.
How far to the next property line?
Well, the property line's on there. It's from the outside edge of the deck. It's 10 foot, 4 to 7, I think it's on there.
10 foot, 8,
Yeah.
10 foot 8.
But how close is the
Or the
shed?
shed?
Because I don't
From
see
the
it.
property line, the
The
shed.
property
would
line is
probably
on the,
Right,
No,
but there's no distance,
be where the
there's no-
shed
from
is
the,
gonna be.
from the shed itself to the property line, how much space will there be?
probably 2 feet.
Because it's not on the plot line. Now, you said this is a temporary shed.
Yeah, it's just gonna be on cinder blocks.
Right, but how long, when would you tear it down?
Why would I tear it down?
No,
You
no,
said-
we didn't want to tear it
Oh,
down, we
I
just
thought-
meant we weren't
I
gonna
thought it
do
was
it.
It's not temporary, I mean, I put it up tomorrow,
Yeah.
and tear it down.
Well, I thought it said it was a.
Temporary, it's non-permanent.
Not,
I put
Not
it in
permanent.
non-permanent
It's
shed.
not,
all right, I read that as being temporary.
It means I'm not putting a foundation underneath it.
Okay.
Okay, so the material, what about the material for the shed? Was it a wood shed?
Just wood shed. It probably won't be a reed shed.
Something you could go and buy it, like it's something like one of these places like
Or just build it.
Barry or something.
Or I just build it myself.
Yeah.
Whatever. But
we're
you
hoping
said,
to clean up that whole side of the house so that everything looks better. We can put some plants between the property lines. We've been pulling up all of the
it's not weed.
knotweed, and from the roots as much as we can and cutting it down if we can't, to keep the area.
But you wouldn't be doing anything between those 2 feet though.
No,
Between the shed.
no, we just want to make sure that it was clear, you know.
I think by code anyways, I have to be back at least a foot from their property line. Well, not on the lake. It's non-conforming everywhere down there. On the lake, it's 1 foot. You're giggling. What are you giggling about?
Nothing, nothing.
Could you move the shed to the other side of the house? So it's.
No,
No, it just looked as like there's a space there.
no,
Between the
there's
two
actually a
houses.
second house. It's 2 family.
Okay,
So there's a second house, a small house on the other side of our house.
right, I do see that. It just looked like it was the same distance between those 2 houses and
No.
the property, so.
That won't work. I mean, I can leave more distance between the fence that's there and my and the shed. But I don't want to get it too close to my house, because I do have to read Bill's comment. There is a oil fill there.
So, I'm sorry, you done?
Sure, go ahead.
Just for me, clarify where the shed would be relative to this deck. Is it here on the side,
That side, to the, if you look at the deck, to the right of the deck,
over here, going this way?
go actually, you see where the 6x6 is?
Yes,
The back of the shed would be beyond that.
say that again?
Back of the shed would be towards the water, beyond that 6x6 post that's on the ground.
Okay.
It's gonna be 8 feet long, which is, the deck is 10 feet long.
Yeah.
It won't be as out as far as the deck, the edge of the deck.
And the distance between the edge of that cantilevered platform to the outside wall of the shed would be how much?
Only 2 feet, 2.5 feet.
Thank you.
Where's the oil field?
It's right on the side of the deck here. Can you see it?
Is it right at the corner where the deck comes out?
So look at it.
It's-
It's in
on the
the picture.
picture,
Look
you
in the
can see
picture. It's there.
Yeah.
Right there. Right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I didn't see that, okay.
Just to be clear. So you're basically putting the shed at the end of the driveway,
Yes.
but you're not gonna go beyond, like, the edge of the driveway. The shed's not gonna be any closer to the side property than the driveway is currently.
No.
Right.
Just gonna pause for a moment. Any questions or comments from town staff? No, that was not just.
No, I don't have any questions.
If we can just pause, question or comments from the board, I'll just open it up to members of the public. Just a reminder, please state your name and your address. If you have any questions or comments, direct them to the board. And the applicant is obviously welcome to answer them, but you certainly don't have to, if you don't want to. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Dan Barstow, my wife Eva here. We're abutters across the street. And the Nixons are friends, and so I'm gonna say some critical comments here, but I want to make sure this is a tone of neighborliness, shall we say. We oppose this, but first of all, I want to say thank you for reopening this. We went through several meetings where there was no response, no answers, no information. You decided to close it, but I understand that now you have something, and I want to support the chance for an honest review of this. So I support that. But we do oppose the special permit. This is a well-filled property. The major concern we have is about that area is actually a parking area that would now be replaced by the shed and that expansion of the house. That means that and I appreciate that they've been parking their truck there on a regular basis the past few months, but that will no longer be able to be there. It will be back onto the road. We routinely have several cars parked in front of their house. There was a time in the winter last year, a branch fell down, the fire trucks could not get through because of how narrow that road is. But so if they did the shed, that prevents that from being used as a parking area. Second thing I want to say is that, in fact, already on this small property, there are 2 residences. One of those residences goes beyond the property line. It already is extending beyond on that other side. In the front, we've already mentioned about exceeding the property line, using that whole area as a parking area. There also is the issue that the septic has not been closed out from many years ago. There have been problems with it since then. That's sort of encroaching on this side. On the other side, there are docks that are unlicensed that extend out into the lake. And on this side, one of the other neighbors has noted that it gets closer and closer to their property. So for those reasons, it is just a too crowded property to extend even just that piece. I want to add a couple of other things that, from what I understand, that cantilevered piece and the roof were actually a previous attempt to start to build this without a permit, and that was stopped. So that to say they're just fleshing it out, the initial part wasn't approved, let alone adding on to that. I also just want to say that we have had a series of meetings about this that you've held, at which we would routinely show up, no response, routinely show up, no response. Now you have a site plan, but you have specified that you need the foundation, the detailed plans not provided, that the notice of intent with the Conservation Commission, perhaps they've proceeded with that. The Conservation Commission also said there are plans for the wetlands, that it's within 100 feet, that they need to provide those plans. And so that if we do, as we do proceed with this, I think it's important to proceed judiciously to get the information you need so that you can make a clear decision. But for those reasons, we oppose this special permit. Thank you.
Hi. We would not be taking up the space in the driveway. We still plan on using that as a driveway, of course. We wouldn't want to get any close to their car that's parked on the street, and would love to make it as easy as possible as we can for them to get in and out of their driveway. Okay, the septic we've already addressed. And what was the other comment?
What was the other comment?
Yeah.
Well, the fact that the deck was construction that was done without a permit, it was stopped.
No, it wasn't.
That's why we're going through this at this point, because.
No, it was on the original plans.
No, I never permitted that. That's why.
You went back.
I did,
and
but
got
they,
a permit.
no, they haven't done
Okay,
that.
all right, then, I'm mistaken.
We went through this process of the zoning board, so that I went to the building department, they said, you gotta get that permitted, and then they said you have to go to the zoning board of appeals. So that's how we got to this process. And Dan comes here and he complains about the size of our property.
We can't do anything about the
change
size of the property.
I can't change the size of the property.
But just to confirm that the idea with the deck is that you're gonna blow through the wall. So,
Let's keep the wall down.
We take,
right,
it- yeah,
I'm
but
not
just
gonna blow through it, I'm not the Hulk.
no, you know what I mean, though.
take it
Like-
down.
like-
Take it down and put a new one up.
Yes.
Right.
It'll take me a day.
Right. You're enclosing the deck for the purpose of expanding the bedroom.
Yes.
Correct.
It says it on the.
Yeah.
300 feet.
Any other comments or questions from folks in the room?
No, Edie, go ahead, please. Edie Hill, 88 Pine Point Road. I can't say I'm in favor or opposed. My issue here is the amount of cars that are always parked on the street. And I don't know for sure, but it's a private road, and it seems to me that using the private road to park your own cars, and I don't think that's right. And most of that land is used with septic system. And I don't know if it's not maintained well, but quite often there's a very strong odor. And it seems the only place left that they can park is that side of the house. And since they've started this process, more often they're parking on the side, but there's still at least 1 or 2 or 3 cars parked in front of their house. And I mean, there's nowhere else for it other than that strip, because they've got a stone wall and septic. So it's really quite an awkward situation. And honestly, if a fire truck had to get down that street in an emergency or an ambulance, I don't think they could.
Yes, they can. The only thing I'll say is, again, as I sort of mentioned in the last hearing, our authority only goes so far. And so, unfortunately, road traffic and congestion is not really within our scope.
Whose scope is it?
I would recommend talking to either the police department, the fire department, or the town administrator.
I think there's like a traffic committee now.
Yeah.
That consists of,
No kidding.
public safety.
Yeah.
Public safety.
So, but unfortunately, like, unless this was an application like the prior application where the person was trying to include extra parking on his property, which does fall within our scope, we can't really.
But your decision is about the property itself,
Correct.
where that you would be restricting the availability of current usage.
No,
You
there
could no
would be
longer,
no.
you could not fit, if you're gonna put a shed there,
There
you
wouldn't
can't
be-
fit a truck in the same place.
I can still, well, I still
Okay.
can, Danny. It's
Okay,
60
hold on.
feet.
One at a time, sorry. All right, we're just gonna make sure everyone gets to talk once first, so I'll get back to you if you have additional comments. Any other questions or comments from folks in the room? Yes, ma'am.
I just have an answer
Sorry.
or a oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
that's
I'm of our Stower neighbors, Christine and Gary. And our biggest concern is the parking. And we actually carved out a space for parking our vehicle alongside of the road. So when Christine stated that our car is in the road, it is not. It is in the. We.
Mr. Berkeley, question. I'm gonna just, please, please, we're gonna be here all night. We keep this up. All right, one at a time.
You're welcome to come and look. It extends as far as our property line. And, you know, we incurred considerable costs to do that in order to have a place out of the way of any traffic to park our car. Just to comment on that.
How many cars you have parked in the driveway? Two.
And there's 2 cars and enough room for the shed to be there. Still have 2 cars, my truck and a car in there.
Yeah.
The other time we have more than that is when we get a nice day and we had
The
like,
kids
we had a
come over to the lake.
second year birthday party on Sunday. And before that, we had my 15-year-old granddaughter's party on Tuesday. So it's like, you know, then we have cars in front.
The only other thing I'll say is that because Pine Point Road is a private way, there's also some different rules and laws and ownership interests, none of which I'm about to comment on tonight, but I'm just sort of flagging that. Before I go back to anybody else in the room, is there anybody on Zoom, members of the public who'd like to comment or ask a question? If so, please virtually raise your hand.
Kathy Safara.
Yes, Kathy.
Thanks, Albert. But since the Conservation Commission has been talked about tonight, I will just say that a permit is still required for all of the work on the lot, including the removal of the Japanese knotweed. So we're glad they're doing it, but it needs a permit. Thanks.
Oh, gotcha.
You get a permit for moving knotweed?
If it's
Is
in the
that what
100,
you said?
I'm pulling it up with my hands.
it's in the 100-foot buffer. We make it easy for you, though. We can issue a staff level permit.
All right.
Again, not within our scope, but when we issue permit decisions, oftentimes they are conditioned on compliance with other commission reports. So
Sure, yeah.
we want to reach out to them. Anybody else on Zoom? No. Okay, I'm gonna go one more time. Mr. Byron, because he has yet to speak.
This, Jim, what?
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
that's okay.
I'm William Byron, 69 Leeson Road. I am not in a butter. I am a friend of an abutter. I have to be careful what I say from both ends because there's been difficulties over the years with what this gentleman has the right to do and doesn't have to do, but no one else has any rights. It clearly comes out. And this projection from the bedroom, I'll be in trouble with my friend, but in my opinion, enclosing that and enlarging that bedroom, the deck is already there, the space is taken up. And it wouldn't be a terrible thing to let them close that in. The shed is a little bit of another issue. As far as I know, the only thing you can do right up to your property line by the bylaws is pave. Anything else has to be permitted. I do want to ask if the board did this site visit that they said they were going to do. There's no clear dimension on the plan from the shed to the property line. It's just an approximate location. So that the location can't be verified by the building inspector. The shed is not welcome, but I know the need for it very well. But the shed is not necessarily a welcome addition because I don't see how they're going to get access to the property behind the shed, as I stated in the note. So.
Can someone actually clarify for me the right of way?
That's on their property.
I was gonna, so that's their property that you have the right of way on?
No,
No.
they have a lot across the street.
Oh,
That has a right of way, if anybody owned that lot,
oh, I understand.
they would have a right of way to the lake.
It's the
But it's
folks,
on their property.
okay, it's folks across the street with the right of way. It's not, you guys don't have it.
I don't have a right.
Okay, gotcha.
And there is a fence between the two properties.
Right.
And I'd like to just say to address that to Bill, we would, of course, like to keep it that 2 feet away from the property line. So that he would feel more comfortable.
Is there any other place you could locate the shed?
No,
I
it's a very small lot.
I know it's a small lot, but I mean, maybe like on the other side of that one?
No, there's no space there. We have a house and then we have a walkway and then we have a little house. You look at the,
I'm just looking at the picture. Why couldn't it be like right over here, let's say? Right.
that's the driveway.
That's the driveway. That's
That's where we
that's
wanna
where
put
we
it.
want to put it.
Okay, it's a little hard to see.
Yeah,
The-
it
the-
it
the-
is. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
What about between the brick walkway and the other dwelling?
Wait, and the building?
Basically, in between the well and the septic, there's a strip there.
Yes, there is a
Yeah,
strip.
it's not that wide.
But we, I used, yeah, I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna allow members of the public to provide one comment each. Please keep it concise, because we're still gonna be here when you guys are done. So who wants to go first? Sir.
Yes, Dan Parks from 99 Point. Actually, it's a question for you. Can you clarify, when you give a special permit, what special permit are you giving? Because there's been some discussion on what's in your purview and what isn't. And from my understanding, the issue that needs a special permit is how narrow that space is, that they need a special permit to encroach in upon that. And from what I understand, the reason for a special permit that's allowed is that there's enough space there and it's fine with the neighbors and it's okay and it doesn't sort of encroach on the space. And yet they've used the space all the way around and it does encroach. So I'm wondering, what is it that you're permitting with this special permit?
Anyone like to take it?
Well, I mean, if we approve it, I mean, what we would be permitting with the deck is we would just be permitting, you know, his ability to enclose the deck, and that would be it. With the shed, if we approve what he's specifically what he's asking for, we would just be approving the location of that shed at that particular site, and that would be it. I don't. There would be, as far as I know, there wouldn't be any other consequences or ramifications.
Or the setback?
With the shed. You're talking about the shed, the setback?
Well, I'm talking about, are you approving a setback, a variation in the setback from their house to the border?
Well, you're talking about the shed now, right?
No.
Well, if we approved where he wants to put the shed, we would just be approving it for a shed. We would not be giving like a carte blanche approval to put anything 1 foot away. If that's your question, it would not have any other consequences other than specifically what he's asking for.
Better.
Well, what is the rule for how far? It's
So,
25
so
feet.
right now, if I may, just for a second, there's a fixed dimension that's already there where that deck is, right? That's not changing. So whatever that setback is, if it's already been approved, that's not in question right now, right?
It's not even as.
Well, that was
Right.
not approved.
Anything that's been not approved, been in existence and not approved for 9 years is grandfathered.
Right.
Simple as that.
So that's there.
His deck is grandfathered.
And so the only other debate would be the location of that shed. And sheds have a different set of rules with regard to how they actually get propagated on the land.
Standard is also.
Dan, you went and got a permit to get your shed put closer
Yeah.
to your neighbor's land.
Same thing.
Right, and we had to go through a whole process of having.
That's what we're doing.
So essentially, there's two different paths to go down. One is if you're in a conforming lot where you meet all the setbacks, you meet the acreage, all those sorts of things, which is usually not the case in Stow, no matter where you are. I mean, there are some, but not. And so, especially by the lake. And so this is an example of a non-conforming property in that they're already encroaching into what the zone setbacks are. So, you know, whether it be 25 feet of the side or whatnot. And as a result, they're asking essentially, we want to do X within to go further into this particular area where we've already sort of, you know, the house, putting aside the deck, the house itself is already in the setback, the allowable setback. So under the special permit rules, you know, they still have to come here and ask for an exception saying, if we want to do something else in that area, you know, can we do so? And then there are certain standards by which we have to look at. But because of the nature of the rules, special permit is an easier, I'm just trying to be blunt, it has a lower standard, it's probably a more appropriate way of putting it, a lower standard in order to satisfy, as opposed to what's called variance, which is, hey, we live on a 3-acre lot, our house is, you know, 100 feet from any border, and now we want to move all the way, you know, up. That's a higher standard.
Every single lot around the lake, almost 100% of them are not conforming.
Nothing's conforming down there. I'm
And
surprised that nobody thought
You
about
made a
that.
comment about the property lines. there's a number of cases around the lake where a property line goes right through a building or a corner of a building, because there's kind of arbitrarily set and no one ever checked, where's that property line actually? And is an example. Like that strip of land between your access. Excuse me. The strip of land between your access, that it's actually owned by somebody else, King.
Yeah.
And how they're taxed on it and everything, and why they want to keep it that way. It seems like they want to sell it to him, or just give it to him, so it's out of their,
It was supposed to get traded back in the '60s.
well, it never happened.
It didn't happen.
So,
It
I
didn't
mean,
get recorded properly.
that's true of a number of places around the lake where things just didn't happen like they were supposed to. And that's what we live with. And you come to the zoning board to try to make sense of what's there. And since you can't meet the bylaw requirements, again, half the residents in town can't meet the bylaw requirements. They're non-conforming. My house is non-conforming, although I meet the setbacks, my lot size and frontage isn't right. So I'd have to come to ZBA to do anything to my house. It's a judgment call of the ZBA. It's called out in 397, what we have to consider for approving a special permit to allow something to happen. If they can meet the bylaw requirements, we would insist they meet the bylaw requirements. If they can't, it's just a judgment call on our.
Okay, let's keep this quick. Go ahead.
Just real quick, what would be the recourse of Eva Barstow again? What would be the recourse if the parking is being on the street again? Once the expansion takes place?
That's complicated. Okay, I'm gonna take my ZBA hat on. One is, that's not our concern. I'm just gonna be blunt. That being said, that's a little bit more of a complicated question considering that it's a private way. So while you might be able to go to the town and talk to them about it, which if it was clearly a public way, that would be easier. As it's a private way, things get a little bit more complicated. I'm just only speaking from personal experience in terms of like who even owns like the road and that portion right there. So, but I would just suggest talk to the town first because there could be a public safety issue. And I'm not saying that there is, I'm just saying that's the purview.
And the reason that I in particular am asking these questions about the cars being parked, because friends of mine cannot pull into our driveway in order to visit. So they're reluctant to visit, and it may seem like a silly concern, but as the recipient of that, it does impact on our lifestyle. And it's been problematic. There's a boat parked there quite a bit of the time when it's not in the water. So you need space for a boat and 2 cars in order for the street to be clear. Just so you recognize that. Okay, thank you.
By the way, if you go to the registry, there'll be an agreement by the Bartons on how the right of ways are to be used.
I didn't hear what you said.
There's a document in the registry concerning how the Bartons subdivided
Yes.
that, and it will reference someplace the right of ways and how they're to be used, who owns them, who has to do everything. So, but it's not this board's prerogative to say anything.
Any other comments from members? Yes, in the back.
Edie Hill, 88 Pine Point Road. I just wanted to be sure that you do understand that there is all winter a boat that's parked there, a truck that's parked there, and at least 1 car that's parked there. The boat takes up most of that side, leaving very little space for their personal cars. There are 2 cars parked in front of the building to the left. So at any given time on that small property, there's 4 to 5 cars plus a boat, unless the boat's in the water. So it's Boat for the last 2 years has been somewhere else, so I don't know what. No, it's stored, just so you understand.
I think Mr. Byron has his hand up and that'll be the last public comment.
So this is all hearsay because I don't think you will find any factual proof. But when Mr. Nixon was told to cease on the addition to the bedroom. He was also told that that structure that he had put up had to go. He was rebuilding the entire side of the house at the time. And he added this little section. And he was told the bed had to go. So it didn't go. So I don't know how it can be grandfathered. That's just my ears, my say. As far as the road, I don't know for certain about the road. The road, the town does not repair, it'll maintain. My understanding is that if you have a one piece of property on one side and another piece of property on the other side, if there's any ownership, it's to the middle of the road. But if you have property on both sides, the whole thing is basically owned by the, even though there may be a street layout, but it's basically owned by the owner of the land. So, but he was told that he could complete the reconstruction of the outside of the house. But that addition had to go. And it didn't go. So, your call, because I don't think it's correct.
Right, any other questions or comments from members of the board at this point? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we close the public hearing.
Second the motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing at this time? Yes, discussion from town staff.
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's any additional information that the board might want to learn before they close.
I mean, like a site visit? No, there was one.
If there's information from the police department or public safety, as discussed, that might factor in, if there's any additional information. No. Just wanted to verify.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Public hearing is now closed. Meeting as voted by town staff. We can no longer take any information, whether it be from members of the public or from the applicant at this time. Because of the lateness of the hour, well, at least for some people, and the fact that we still have some substantive things to talk about, I think it's probably in our interest to continue the hearing.
Continue.
Oh, I'm sorry. To work on the
Deliberate.
Thank you, chief. To deliberate on a decision at our next meeting. Unless anyone has an objection, strong objection to that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay. In that case, I will take a motion.
We had the motion.
For what? To start the next hearing?
To schedule, put it on the agenda.
No, we're not.
We don't need to schedule.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. In that case, we will be deliberating a decision on 98 Pine Point Road at our next meeting on August the 5th. Thank you. At 7:45.
So whatever else we have.
Yeah.
Anytime during the evening.
Hey, can I ask you guys a favor? Do you mind doing it first and then I'll join you for the other stuff?
Well,
Let's see how it works.
yeah, we may not be able to pull that off. So
Okay.
We'll try.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Going
Thank
in
you,
for
everybody.
vacation. Selfish, sorry.
That's okay. Bring us back souvenirs. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and with that, we will reopen the hearing, the continued hearing
Are
of.
we supposed to be there? If any, no more
We're
statements?
He's not your hearing, he's talking.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is, we're moving on. I apologize. So,
Thank you.
but please come back in August.
Okay.
All right, we're now reopening the hearing, and we appreciate the patience of the applicant on the Stow Acres North Course application. And I will. I think the best way to do this. I guess I'll turn over to the applicant first, just to give us an update on where things stand. As just a brief reminder for everyone, the agenda for today, for this meeting originally scheduled, was frankly sort of a miscellaneous closeout, meeting, as opposed to the prior ones where there were sort of specific topics. So to the extent that members of the public, members of the board, town staff have questions, frankly, about anything, whether it's been discussed before or not, I would certainly encourage people to talk about that, especially because our 180-day time period ends in approximately 2.5-ish weeks or so. And as much as we'd love to extend with the applicant's courtesy, another 6 months.
Don't say that.
I'm just making sure people are awake. That's unlikely. But we do have some thoughts in terms of scheduling so we can expedite things going forward.
Okay.
But with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to the applicant for updates and the additional materials that we've received, etc.
Terrific. Mark O'Hagan from Salem Associates. So there's a whole bunch of information that has come in of late, some from me, some from staff. So what I thought I would do is run through the information that you have, identify where I think we are, answer any questions, and I presume that the board will need some time to look at everything, because there's a lot of stuff. So I'll run through things that I've submitted. A fully updated plan set. So as we have discussed, we've been kind of using this, this one sheet thing with an added notes and making changes and really just dealing with this layer of things to get a plan and modifications that address the ongoing issues. From the last meeting to now, he's gone through the exercise of updating the full plan set to reflect this. All the grading, all the drainage, any of the items that we discussed have been implemented through it. Additional details have been added that were outlined in some of the peer review stuff in terms of roadway specifications and profiles. Full turning radius plan that was asked, that was submitted and incorporated. So hopefully the board has that, but you can take time to look at it. They also updated the complete drainage analysis. So if, on these beautiful summer nights, that's impressive. On these beautiful summer nights, if you want to purview the 578-page updated drainage analysis, stormwater management report, you're welcome to do that. So
I'm on page 320.
Okay.
Don't ruin the
don't
ruin the ending.
We've got time. It all works out. It's a happy ending. Let's put it that way.
I'm on page 5 working on it.
All right, that's good. So, so that's the nuts and bolts of things. So what I did too is I was trying to match up. I had gone through everything. He sent the plan over. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. I was out of town. I really just had a little bit of time to look at it today, as some of you may have. So I tried to go through and match it up with the list that we have. There's a couple of small items that he missed that I will talk with him. And it was the note to remove the pump house in the back. It's not, because some of them that were reflected on the bodies of the plans, but it wasn't there. The notes about, the EV charging station information, he didn't have it on there either. The bike rack by the cottages for public use, that wasn't noted. Most of the things that were on there that we had in here, so I think we're in pretty good shape. So I'll work with him over the next, couple of days to get those minor things addressed that are in there. But overall, I think just about everything that has been discussed that we wanted to be incorporated has, with a couple of those minor exceptions. So that's there for the board to review. What we also did in conjunction with the design changes and plan changes, there was the peer review memo that Dillis and Roy had sent over at the beginning of the project. We went through and did a more detailed analysis. The engineer, as he was doing the work, chimed in on it. Some of the additional details that he asked for have been incorporated either into the stormwater report or into the plan stuff. So we literally did a comment response with every item on the peer review memo, to address it. If there's any questions that the board has an opportunity to review it, we're happy to go through that. Again, this is related to the plan changes, to the peer review memo. We went through, he had a couple of comments about the waiver lists, and some of them we agreed with, some of them we didn't. So there are a couple of additional waivers that we incorporated for clarity that he had spelled out. We created a table, a dimensional table that he had requested and spelled out as well. So that was updated, that was submitted. One of the other larger items we had was how do we create addresses for this whole convoluted project? So we went through, we did one version, sent it to the fire chief, he made a couple of recommended changes, which we did those, which that's the plan that was submitted to this board, had already been reviewed and modified based on the fire chief's comments. I've reached out to have him say, yes, you did everything we asked for. I haven't heard back from him yet, but it really just had to do with, going up, even on one side or on the other side of where we started it. So what we did is there's a plan, and if on the 8.5 by 11, you really can marginally see the numbers. That's why we attached the full listing of addresses. Those addresses and lot numbers tie in with the lot numbers that are on the plan book. But if you look at that plan and you blow it up, we kind of hand wrote the numbers in so that to try to tie it together for people to understand it. So we do have a full set that has been reviewed. And again, I'll push for a final, memo from him saying, yes, this is acceptable to the fire department. But we did what he asked for and the questions that he made. So I think that we should be okay with that. We also updated the listing of which of the affordable homes. The homes were designated previously within the different LIP applications. So, the plans modified a little bit. So we just updated that based upon the plans so that can be referenced in the decisions or reviewed by the board for comfort. And then subsequently rested in it. And then lastly, Michael had put together a draft decision, which I got a copy of today. I think the board got today as well. I did a quick review of it, and so I need to look at some of the more details, but it looks like it's a really, good framework for where we are and incorporates most of the things that we've been. So I don't know how detailed the board wants to review these different items. If people, I'm happy to go through all of them line by line. I don't know when you got them, if you've seen them. It is a lot of information, but it's I'm open to review at the level that the board requests.
Before opening up to the board, I guess I actually want to ask town staff if you guys have any areas that need to be addressed, things that you believe are still missing, comments, questions, whatever it might be. Sorry to put you guys on the spot, but you can think about it if you want.
I think I will need some additional time to go over some of the documents that were submitted. As you probably saw from my scrambled email, we've had a lot of technical issues in town building. We've lost, internet, phones, access to the server, air conditioning, the printer. So
sounds like a normal.
But other than that,
we're trying to function. So I think reviewing the additional documents that were submitted within the last week would be helpful for us. A lot of the decision that I drafted so far was based on what was original or as of the last meeting. So some of that stuff will likely change since there is additional documentation provided that addresses some of that. There might need to be some things added because of the new materials.
One question I had, and Kathy, feel free to weigh in as look to you as in your official capacity, is I know that we've received sort of offhand comments, sometimes thumbs up, sometimes silence from various town officials and boards and commissions. are we expecting, are we anticipating, someone to say, we've seen the final things, we bless it, or here's our final comments, or I guess, is there a sense of how that may or may not work? I don't know how Concom plans on looking at things. I'll open it up to all three of you to sort of weigh in on it.
I mean, you can answer for the Concom, certainly. Yeah, I think it would be helpful to have a little more time for staff to digest the revised plans, and then we can reach back out to all the different entities and just make sure, all the boards, committees, departments, to make sure there aren't any lingering comments, and just make kind of a staff level assumption or guess at what can be reasonably accomplished now, what can be conditioned, what can happen in the future,
Right.
Given various other permitting processes that need to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the Conservation Commission, I think they've made all of their comments. Mark and I have been working on the revisions to the plans, talking a little bit about how to go about the application process for the road and all of the units. I'd love to look at the latest materials also and at my full draft decision, but I think we're in pretty good shape. I'll mention too that the master plan for the North Course property is complete now. And as of today, posted on the town's website. So Michael was good not to say it, but some of his time has gone into some editing of that as well, amidst all of our technical difficulties. So to whatever extent we're trying to kind of marry across the property line, that information is available now.
I also just want to add that I don't know of any sticking points still out there. Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though this new plan set has addressed a lot of the concerns that were brought to the board from public safety in particular. So I think that, as Mark was describing, I think I'm not anticipating any other question or topic highlighted.
Right, and I'm not saying that there necessarily is one, I just want to make sure that, one, we don't get ahead of ourselves and have someone being like, well, wait a minute, there's this small little thing, which we're all okay with, but we wish had dealt with 3 weeks ago rather than now. There is also just, from my perspective, wanting to give folks sort of the, okay, this is the last moment, like, speak now, forever hold your peace. Not that folks have not been given that opportunity 17 times before, but I just want to make sure that, people understand that, where we are in the process, and, the opportunity to speak is rapidly closing.
So are we expecting some written declarative statement, or just a word of mouth?
Well, that's kind of where I was going. I mean, from my perspective, I'd love, even if it's an email, just for someone to be like, hey, listen, this thing's closing as of this date. Are you good to go with, has everything been addressed? Have you looked at the materials?
I think that's appropriate.
I do too. And so I acknowledge that
I would
people have
just
been.
respectfully request that no comment is an affirmative.
Well, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I'm also acknowledging the fact that people have been asked repeatedly over the last 6 months and never responded. And so I'm not saying that we need to get an affirmative sign off signature or whatever from everybody. I just want to sort of give people the window to go, all right, are you good?
I think that makes a lot of sense, David, with a sharp, clear timeline.
Yeah, so, and I think we can, when we get to the end of tonight, talk a little bit about the schedule moving forward, we can sort of give the sort of like, speak now, forever hold your peace sort of moment. Because I don't want to be in a situation where the hearing closes and someone goes, you know what? Yeah, exactly. And so, so Kathy will be expecting your email tomorrow. So, with that, anyway, I just wanted to kind of loop that. Other, I guess I'll open up to the board for questions, comments, topics that you wanted to go back over. Kind of just open it up.
On the Dillis report.
Okay.
So I did find a typo, not that that's a big deal. No big deal.
Highly possible, since
Yeah,
it was
but
going between
it's,
three
that's just an academic one. I don't remember us talking about the building height to be over the already existing. So we're talking about a 40-foot high building?
The only one that we're talking about is the the multifamily building.
Right.
It's only 2 stories, but it's a very wide building, so the peak of the roof it's right in the range, it's about 30, I think 38 feet or 38 and a half, depending on what the final grading, might be around it, which I think would be generally level. So that's the only place that we're looking at, and again, it's only a 2-story residence, it's just, given the scale of it,
So
the
the
scope
peak
is
of the
that
roof.
much bigger, yeah.
So that ridge line has to be higher.
That's, yeah. So, and even if you wanted to just say, that it's 40 feet for that building and 35 for the other ones, I'm perfectly fine with that as well.
Okay.
So all of the homes are 2-story residential buildings with traditional roof structures, which shouldn't put it over the 35. It's just that single structure.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not too sure why we have 35, but I think we should ask the fire chief to approve the 40 feet. Because,
That's an
that's-
apparatus question.
Right.
Yeah.
According to Bruce Fletcher, he said there's no reason for the 35 feet. He said that to me one time, and if that's true, fine, but our bylaw says 35, and,
Wait, no reason that the number's arbitrary?
excuse me,
Are you saying that the 35 feet is arbitrary?
it may not have been at one time, but now there may not
Oh, okay.
be a requirement.
Yeah, I
for
don't
it.
think it's I don't think it's a health and safety issue at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
with
but
all
we
with
need
all
the fire
equipment
chief to
that-
say that. He doesn't communicate with us.
He's
He's
retired.
only communicated with you, which annoys me.
I'm-
He's not doing his job.
We got the address.
Not that I don't trust you.
No, that's why everything, it's important for everybody to have all the information, everybody to be comfortable. And when there's so many people that are involved, that's the hardest thing of having, being the traffic cop sometimes is a really hard job because you're pushing some people to respond, other people, so I get it. So he has responded when I've made specific requests and,
You're special.
so I have no complaints.
Was there,
And I know he's leaving soon as well,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
know that was
he's
part of it, that
Swan
he
song?
wanted to make sure that he addressed these questions before he left, since he was here, kind of with the beginning of it. So he had made a point that, that he wanted to try to, address that stuff. So, so he's been responsive for me.
Any,
I appreciate it.
I'm just kind of curious, the new plan indicating the locations of the affordable housing units, any sort of logic behind which ones were selected?
It's just kind of spread
And if
out.
there isn't, then that's okay. I was just kind of curious.
No, it's just kind of spread out throughout the site. I tried, there's one location where I clustered 2 of them next to each other, which was intended to be the location for the micro units, assuming that's done. Otherwise, they're just kind of spread out. They're a little less weighted on the perimeter units, a little more heavier on the interior units. The perimeter units are really, driving the site economically. So they're included, but a little bit lighter on the percentage wise. But generally, the goal of the plan is you drive through the property, you don't say that's affordable, that's.
Right, no, understood.
And
Yeah.
that, I think the plan that you have will achieve that goal and with the overall look and feel of things. But that's essentially it. And in the multi-story building, in the multi-family building, we just, spread them around the locations, nothing.
And just to review, I know we went over it, the affordable ones will be in perpetuity, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the nature of the deal.
Yeah, just wanted to be sure. Any updates on the micro unit plan or?
We
from the
got
last
some
meeting?
additional information that I think Michael got a copy of from Hope and from Andy.
I did not get an official copy yet.
You didn't, I didn't forward that to you?
I got a draft one, but if we close it, I could cross draft off, right?
Oh, okay. That was, I think you had submitted it, yeah, so, and they asked if they should come tonight, and I said I didn't think that they needed to. For me, there's some comments within the decision about it, I think for the board to read and make sure it addresses things. The key issues that we talked about in it were, who needs to sign off on this? We are gonna need DHED or EOHLC to sign off on it and accept it. In the information that we got from Andy, he said that it's Mass Health that will actually provide oversight as compared to DSS or DDS, and I apologize if I got the acronym wrong. They supplied some information, as we had touched base on the previous meeting, about what is the intended process for review for lottery application screening and such. Where we had said before that, hey, we can have a local preference. They talked about it, in a little bit more detail about, there's a little more involved than just that randomness. And I'll talk with them. I thought that was the official email, so we'll make sure that gets submitted to the board. That answered some of those questions that we had talked about that previous meeting for the benefit. But I think at this point, we're still gonna need a DHCD to sign off on it. I do think that we'll get it. I do think that it'll take a little bit more time.
And my question wasn't from a position of my concern, it was more, how are things going?
No, I understand. Yeah, and so I think for everybody right now, the main goal was to have the idea incorporated into the decision to show that there is local support, because without that, DHCD is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, we'll get comments back from them. We'll be in the position to have them make a specific decision when they have a copy of a comprehensive permit that says the board is open to it, subject to their approval with these basic requirements. And I think, I candidly, I don't think we'll get anything from them until that happens.
No,
So,
of course.
I think for the board, looking at those conditions to make sure that it incorporates, what we look at in the future. We talked about it, and if it loses its status, or if it, for some reason, the organization isn't able to support it, what happens with it? And it would be a single family home, and it would be affordable, or it would be sold, and extra proceeds would go to the town. So there's some stuff in there to look at to make sure that that you're comfortable with it. So I think it's addressed to the extent that it needs to be at this point. That's my opinion, but obviously, take a look at it and see if you think that there needs to be more.
Will we have to modify the permit if it does get approved?
No, I don't believe.
We state you will have the words in the decision to cover.
The words in the decision.
Yeah, there is a.
We'll still have.
I haven't read
Yeah,
it.
the only thing that I was thinking about it and didn't get a chance to look at it all in relation to. We should have some comment, and this is just off the top of my head, I was thinking of it as I was looking at it, later in the afternoon. We're saying, I made 2 lots next to each other affordable. That whether a lot line is gonna disappear, or a structure is just going to be on those 2 lots and cross over the lot line. I don't think that's addressed, because technically we've got offsets and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's something that might need to be added in as an exception.
Can you do that? I mean, if you're gonna, are these the ones that are gonna be home ownership, or are they gonna be rental?
No, these are home ownership. I think, and I might have the locations wrong. I forget if I put them on, on this side or this side, but I think I did 2 units like this. They're close together. So theoretically, they're more of a ranch design as compared to a traditional 2-story single family. So it could be more of a sprawling building that, given the size of these lots, it could, need to roll over. It could need to be, that's why we put the 2 lots there together, because we don't think we could necessarily fit it on one. So,
but you'll have to define the property lines at some point.
well, I think that's the point. As of right now, the permit says we have all of these.
But this
So
is
right now, the permit says these are 2 individual lots, and there's a subdivision line that has those bounds.
Right.
So the question is, if it's the case that it's approved, would they have the ability to essentially eliminate that interior lot line? I think is effectively what we're talking about.
Do we know if that's something we could actually condition it in the decision?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what it sounds like. We-
Yeah.
If this, then that, right?
I think that's it. And that that issue that we're just talking about isn't, in the permit now.
Yeah, got
I was thinking about it after the fact, and I think that's something that we may want to incorporate.
Yeah.
That theoretically, that could reduce and we'd end up with one lot.
We just need to understand what the permutations are, right?
Correct.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, figure out how to put that language in.
Yeah, and under that scenario, then, the offsets that are established are still, in
So
compliance with
stays
the
the same,
outside,
does
but not.
this, does that, whatever.
Right, but that inside lot line could essentially be eliminated.
Yeah.
So that's not in there, but I think that's wording that would provide, I think all the flexibility that would be needed, because I think all the other offsets that they should comply with. My opinion, I would assume it would be the
Yeah,
same.
it only gets dicey, I guess, if there's some reason that it has to be articulated at some point. How do you reestablish that lot, right?
Worst case, we come back here.
Yeah, right, that's the only.
I think you guys have the control over it, so I mean, I always, I look at it and some of the comments that, the conversations that Michael and I had when he was working on the draft is that you don't want too much stuff coming back and forth to the board. There's gonna be 124 lots, there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on. And you don't want it to be, oh, well, we need approval for this, we need approval for that, that doesn't help anybody.
You get paid per hour.
Yeah, that's good. So, having as much as we can to be incorporated in the plans and in the decisions so that, if you guys may not be here, Michael may not be here, I may not be here, the cleaner it is, that this is what we're doing. This is how you look at it in the future, I think is the best for everybody. And on this particular issue, I think we could focus in and as you suggested, if we don't get approval, it's
Yeah,
as it is.
What are the
If it
3 or
gets
4
approval-
states that might happen, right? And then we just need to know what they are.
And that's essentially what we did, and I think that this, the potential of needing to, I'm gonna say essentially eliminate that interior lot line isn't something that we discussed, and that would seem to be something that would make sense. But, take a look at the wording yourself, see if you think it addresses those different potential alternatives. And we'll figure out the wording. We're trying to make it, flexible enough so that if we get the approvals, we can make it happen. But not, unwieldy, but also
It needs to
not
be
something that
durable.
can turn into something that none of us want it to turn into, so.
Have there been any changes to the corporate governance documents?
No, those are the drafts. I think that it's conditioned that the final will come back to the board. There, by the time we get to the point that we have wastewater treatment and there's gonna be documentation that's gonna need to be incorporated from DEP, both on the wastewater, on the community corporation, on all that stuff. Until we get that information and what they dictate needs to be done, the documents are gonna be in flux. So, what I had suggested, and I think what's in there is that final set of plans with that final set of documents would be submitted for board review. So that you have an opportunity to review it and make sure that it's clear and meeting the town standards.
Yeah, I just remember there was that one sort of weird glitch where
Yeah.
there was a way like everyone would own something, but there was a backdoor way to keep owners, like keep control for another year.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's, so it's really a placeholder more than anything else. Those I think will be expanded in a reasonable sense to include those items. But they would be subject to final board review and approval.
Other topics, questions, comments that folks want to raise this evening? I will open it up to members of the public who are here. If you have any questions or comments, either here or on Zoom.
I do have one request.
Yeah.
All the plans could have A size, please.
Sorry.
Complete set of A size drawings. The big plans.
One set, sure.
The big set.
Yeah, 24 by 36.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, one full-size set, yes.
Easier to read.
Believe me, without blowing them up on the screen, I can't see them either, so.
we'll need one for the town's copy and one for the peer review as well, so that would be 3 full
And
sets.
peer review, bring his own, it's in his office. Just a suggestion.
Send him the PDF, he can print his own.
He may look.
I don't
at
have a
it.
printer that big.
How about I say, I'll provide the 2, and then if they need it, let me know.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Just
$100
send
a
it-
set,
send it from-
probably more than that now, so it's half a tree. We are trying to save the world.
I work for
And
Raytheon.
my $100.
I work for Raytheon and we killed a lot of trees for the government.
You did. We killed a lot of people for the government.
That's
too,
true
so
also.
let's not quibble about the trees.
I was gonna make a comment, but I decided to hold back.
Wait,
And
wait
then
a minute, wait a minute.
and then you went about 90 miles an hour fast where I was gonna go. All right.
That may be the applicant zinger of the session.
Yeah, this is ZBA late night.
Yeah. So I guess, and what I would ask, and I think it's the same thing that the board is, that if we can plan for additional comments, to come in like a week before the meeting, so
Yeah, so
that everybody has a chance to look at it.
Yeah,
So the next meeting can be really, productive if we have, if board members, if I have concerns, if other people have concerns. We're really looking more at detailed stuff based on comments as compared to general, which it's not practical tonight because everybody was pushing to get them in before.
Yeah, no, understood. So, I mean, just to mention briefly, sort of as my thoughts about scheduling. So our 180 days expires on July 24. Yes, got it. However, due to, well, just to be selfish, my personal schedule, because I'm gonna be out of town next week, and Michael's gonna be out of town at the end of the month.
I'm out next week also.
Whatever, I'm joking. And so that everyone has the opportunity to review this. I think what I'd like to propose is a brief extension to the August meeting to wrap up the public portion of the hearing. And then try to schedule, what I would propose is schedule a special meeting, if possible, either early September or late August. So I think you have,
I'm out 21 August through September 4th.
But let me ask this. So our ZBA meeting on September, our normally scheduled one is September 9th. Is anything scheduled for that?
For September, there is nothing scheduled yet.
Okay, so, because I guess from my perspective, I felt like the most productive thing was not to, have the final meeting to going through the decision, and deal with a whole bunch of other things. I'd rather just have one night dedicated to it. And so we can roll the dice and assume that we can just stick it on the 9th and clear everything out, or just schedule a special meeting for that. But anyway, that's my thinking. So you're out August 19th?
August 21
okay.
through September 4.
I mean, theoretically, we could try to put it in right beforehand and basically do it August, is it the 8th? No, hold on.
Or be August 5 or 12.
August 5 and then do one like 2 weeks later. We could do that theoretically. Of course, I realize that obviously getting an extension beyond 180 days would be subject to your approval. It's a, but I'm also sort of,
We're all working together.
I'm gonna be on an airplane the night of the 19th of August.
They have cell phone town. So I don't know what.
Are we planning on meeting the 5th?
There's already a pre-scheduled ZBA meeting on the 5th.
Okay.
What I would like to propose and ask for the applicant's consent for is to extend the public hearing time period. Let's just say till August 9th, just to give us a couple days buffer, with the intention that August 5th would be the closure of the public hearing.
No, what I guess, are we planning to meet on the 5th?
That's what I'd like.
Okay, all right. That's what I wasn't sure if you were trying to jump over that.
No.
Okay,
No.
all right.
I mean,
So
we
the
do
intent is to meet on the 5th, and then subsequent to the 5th.
schedule a standalone meeting to just work through the decision. What I'd like to actually, we might be able to even work through part of the decision that night as well, depending.
Yeah, is there no reason why we can't just lock up the 9th? Do we have discretion to say the agenda is blah? Whoop, takes all meeting? Right now, there's nothing on the agenda for the 9th of September, correct?
As of now, there's nothing.
Right,
Basically,
so
already.
can we just assert that that meeting is for this purpose? Stop, full stop?
Well, we're gonna finish then, and we calling that the end?
Well, no, all I'm saying
What I'm
is
wondering is
if we can carve out that night and just make it dedicated to this process now, say, okay, whatever it is, block 3 hours out.
I would not say I don't think we could because that is the regular scheduled meeting. It would have to be a separate meeting if we wanted to
But
completely.
that would be a regular scheduled meeting, and the agenda is review this, and it's gonna take from here to there. That's the regular scheduled meeting. If an application comes in, then we put it into the next slot.
Michael, do you feel like that would create problems within other applications?
I'm sorry, Ruth, I apologize. Can you say that one more
Yeah,
time?
no, Mike, sorry for jumping in out of the blue. Do you feel like that would create problems for other applications?
I do know that we have there's another prospective application that might be coming in soon. If they can meet a deadline by the end of this week, then I can put them to the August meeting. Depending on the status of 56 Harvard, that might get continued again to September. So a standalone meeting outside of the regular scheduled meeting would probably be ideal. So
It's, I think it's just like a standalone meeting. Why can't we do some of it on August 5th and some of it on September 9th?
Oh, no, that, I mean, my ideal scenario is that, if there's any remaining issues that knocks it out, we knock it out in the August meeting.
Right.
Ideally, there's also some time where we can actually start going through the decision, and then,
Well, the continuity is nice to be able to get it wrapped up in one
Yeah,
section.
yeah,
Because you don't lose the start and stop scenario.
Right, or we try to have something relatively close to the 5th for that continuity, because if it's a month later, it's like you're starting all over again.
Yeah.
And
someone remind me,
Said the same thing.
we have, is it 45 days after the hearing is closed, to issue a decision?
40.
40, okay.
40 days, sure.
So if we were to theoretically close it on August 5th, then it's September 15th ballpark or so that we have to.
And I'm generally more in favor of keeping it open while we're deliberating, because if we need information, it's there. So I'm not worried about closing the.
Yeah. Right.
I guess what I would request, what would be great is if we can look to be done on the 9th. So if we meet on the 5th, at that time, if it's a decision that you want to hold a special hearing, in between, that we can, have 2 hours to focus on this outside of other stuff. Is that practical? Is there a posting thing that needs to happen? That, if we meet on the 5th, and I know people are going out of town, if we want to meet on the 12th, is that something that we can do? Or do we not have enough time to post a public hearing if we make the decision then? And that, I don't know the regulations on that. And if the board has time or inclination, I'm just thinking out loud.
Don't kill me for suggestions, however.
Yeah.
We could, continue this to August 5th. And then also put it on September 9th, but we could schedule another hearing, another meeting on September 10th. And basically, if we don't finish on the 9th, then we just come back on Tuesday just for this and finish it out. If we don't need it, then, we don't have to be,
I really like that idea. I like doing it 2 nights in a row because the stuff is alive in your head, unless that's pushing it out too far and we need to push all of it.
No, if we're looking at the 9th, 10th, that's, if you want to have the 2 days then, or I was looking at having the 5th and then a date close to that. But if you want to make sure that we have the 2 days then, and that works for the board with scheduling.
I like the 5th anyway, just to get that, there's gonna be comments, what he.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
So we gotta do that, and he's gonna have time, in case we have anything significant, he's gonna have time to respond to it.
Yeah.
And then in September, if we have 2 meetings back to back, then we can get it out of the way.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I saw a look. I just wanted to make sure.
Unfortunately, we can't send comments to him and discuss it without having a public hearing.
I understand.
Yeah.
Of course. So, all right, so what about the thought of doing basically August 5th, September 9, and September 10? Does that work?
Right now, that sounds fine.
Good.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, before we do that, let me just make sure, does anybody else, I mean, now that we're here, any questions, comments, concerns from members of the board, town staff? To the extent that the applicant has had time to even look at the draft decision, any like major concerns or issues that popped up so far? No, okay. Okay.
so my only question would be, is when do we want to request comments from everybody else in advance of the 5th?
So in my dream world, I'd like it to be as of July 29. That way it gives a full week. You know, my assumption is that if anything comes in, it's gonna be extremely minor, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but God forbid there's something significant, it gives you a whole week to figure
No, I
out.
think that was gonna be
So
my
go for the
suggestion.
Friday before the 26th.
Perfect, July 26th, like, and at the end of the week, they can't get it in by Friday?
Right, they'll be scrambling, then they'll come in Monday or Tuesday.
Friday runs into the middle.
Okay.
No, I think that's terrific. That way, we're all dealing with the same
That's right.
information.
Okay. So I guess
and
I guess I
We
would
all
ask,
got a week to do it. That works for me. That's
yeah,
right.
so Valerie, Mike, I guess I would ask to final reach out, you know, make people aware that, you know, this is where things are headed. Please get any final comments. And frankly, even if the comment is, we love it, thumbs up, like, we'll take that, because it just frankly, you know,
Yeah.
while I expect some people will not respond, you know, it definitely is a lot easier to go, oh, so-and-so from X department is signed off, so, you know, we're good to go. Anyways, Kat, as you're here from Concom, does that work for you? Okay. Okay, any other final questions, comments, outstanding things that we think we need as of now? No?
We just need a letter between the two.
Right, understood. Okay, well, in that case, I will, I guess, take a.
So
move to a
moved.
motion. Ask his approval. Well, hold on, I haven't done it yet.
You gotta continue this hearing.
Yeah, but I think we need his consent first.
It has to go to Linda.
Oh, it's the town clerk.
This is July, right? Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Still July.
Okay.
I just see what the agenda is on August 5th, and there's that moment of hesitation of like, oh God, how long is it, you know, like.
It's like tonight.
It's all gonna depend on what your time frame is for a decision on the previous.
You just have to do time management.
Fine.
That's it.
It's hard to do that when you have people here, though.
I know, but we got one here is close, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I lost the beat. What are we waiting on?
Oh, Michael is filling out a form.
Okay.
So, and we'll need a separate, as Ernie pointed out, we'll need a separate document between the town clerk and the applicant to officially extend that. So pending that, we're just, I guess, just for the minutes, does the applicant have any objection, and you consent to extending the 180-day public hearing period to, just to be safe, on or before August 9th?
I thought it was September 10th.
September 10th.
Oh, right.
Oh, sorry, right, to September 10th.
That's September 10th, right? Is that the Tuesday?
Yes, September 10th, sorry about that, yes.
No.
Okay,
Yes, I do.
I'll send an email to Michael
great,
clarifying.
I appreciate it, thank you.
So that can be a record. If you need a signature, you can send it to me. I'll take care of it, but that's fine.
Excellent.
I hereby give my consent to the Board of Appeals to continue the public hearing to August 5th, 2024, and hereby grant an extension of the period within which the Board of Appeals has to file a decision on the above reference application until September 10th, 2024.
That's good.
Are we gonna be able to actually file the decision on the 10th, if we're still deliberating on the 10th?
That's supposed to.
Oh, it's probably the 11th, actually, because we're gonna finalize it.
A public hearing not going to necessarily finish until September the 10th.
Well, I think he's just giving us a buffer in case we want to keep it open.
Yeah, it just says that no action can be, has to be taken until then.
I mean, we may need a longer period of time, but I guess.
Well, my goal is on the September 9th, we're done. We're dealing with editorial stuff on the 10th.
Right.
And we're signing it. You guys can vote and move on. If there's issues, we'll do it.
No, I'm just thinking of drafting the, writing the,
We already have a draft decision. That's
Actually
90%
signing it.
there, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just signing it.
If you close on the,
If we need more time, we're gonna, this is not, there's no animosity. So we're working on stuff, we're closing it together, we're gonna finish it
No,
up.
just to make sure we have enough time.
Yeah.
if you close on the 10th, then you still have 40 days to
Yeah.
file,
To actually
Yeah.
draft the decision. Oh,
to file it with the clerk. Yeah.
okay.
All right. So, all right, so with that out of the way, then I'll take a motion.
So make a motion to
Well-
continue this, or do we need to have something
For
first?
the applicant to do it, and then you would motion to accept the petition.
Just wait for it to sign. Let's try to move on.
We're also meeting August 5th, right?
Yes.
August 5th.
Yeah.
So what's the motion gonna be, Mike? What does the motion need to be? That we accept the petition?
Yes. To accept the petition to continue the public hearing to August 5th.
Through.
And take no action needs to be filed. Or no action until September 10th. Just a motion to accept the petition to continue.
Okay.
Was there a motion made?
No, wait for
I'm
I'll
gonna
make
motion to accept the
petition.
the decision or
No,
the
petition.
petition to extend
Then
the hearing
August 5th.
to August 5th and beyond, to the close.
A motion with second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we will see you August 5th.
Yes.
At 7:45. Ish.
Will it be?
Oh. 7:45.
As you said, that like, well, actually, to see how it works for all your board members and if they're traveling and when they're available.
Let's just say
If you can
7.
kick that to the end, that'd be awesome, but whatever you need.
We'll
Let me know.
we'll do 7:45.
Okay.
And with that, I'll take a motion.
Take a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:30.
Second.
Motion, second, discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Night, you
everybody,
guys.
as always.
Just closed.